Dave Meltzer. Dave, you're an editor of the Wrestling Observer, which is what, the New York Times of Wrestling?
Well, I wouldn't say that, but...
All right, well, you might as well, if I say... John Arezzi is a talk show host, a wrestling program at WEVD-AM. You guys will agree that the mainstream folks really haven't had a whole lot of time for any kind of probe or serious attention to wrestling. Isn't that so?
Well, I think that's wrestling in general has never gotten its due recognition as far as its popularity.
As a business.
As a
very
business
big
and entertainment, both positive and negative. I think that it hasn't been given, and maybe perhaps that's why a lot of things have happened.
Okay.
That
you mean over the years and no whistles have been blown.
Exactly.
Give me your shortest speech, Dave. What's going on here? Why is this serious? I mean, I think we know, but there is a kind of a tendency to chuckle at this. You know, the big boys are, are playing with each other is kind of ha-ha. And it isn't. It isn't.
No, not at all. No.
Well, tell them why. Tell them why this is important.
There's so many different issues here, and the as far as like a criminal thing, I think hopefully everybody in this panel wants just the truth to come out, and I don't know what the truth is. We all hear different versions of a story, and we just want to hear the truth.
Very
so
good.
That's fine.
John, what would you add to that? Same question.
Well, mainstream media pretty much has ignored the entire situation. They really just started jumping on it last year with allegations of steroid abuse in the World Wrestling Federation, and now they've really come alive.
And what do you think? That's what opened the door to these charges?
I think what opened the door to all these charges basically was the fact that last year, after the steroid trial of Zaharian, Vince McMahon started a steroid policy.
Dr. Zaharian, Harrisburg, PA, 3 years steroid distribution.
Right.
Yeah.
And after that trial, Mr. McMahon started a steroid policy, and during that press conference, he did not invite the wrestling media. I alerted Phil Muchnick to that, and after that, that's when certain people started calling Mr. Muchnick about other allegations.
You speak of the New York Post reporter.
Yes.
Superstar Billy Graham, I'll tell you what, he's won his share. Former pro wrestling champs. Hey, baby. Oh, they still love you, Billy. Don't tell them I had to give you a shot before the show, right in the mouth, because you were disobeying my orders. Hey, what's not so funny, Billy? Tell them. You saw ring boys, did you, being sexually harassed?
Yes, I've seen ring boys being sexually harassed.
What's a ring boy?
A ring boy is a person who's usually employed to put up and take down a ring, travel from one town to another. Age group possibly from 13 to 19 to 20, fluctuates anywhere in between.
And you saw what?
I saw on one occasion, I believe it was in New Haven, Connecticut, Pat Patterson actually grabbed one of these children in the crotch while putting up the ring. I came to the ring a little bit early, walking by the ring to the locker room, and I saw Pat Patterson with his left arm on the kid's shoulder and his right hand in his crotch. I witnessed this for myself.
You also claim to have, you did not see the abuse of a 12-year-old boy in the car. You mentioned this on Larry King's program.
I wasn't on Larry King's program.
Weren't you? I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Sorry, you weren't. Bruno was. We'll get to Bruno in a moment. Did you see, you didn't see the abuse of a 12-year-old in a car by the ring announcer, did you?
I didn't see the actual abuse. I was there the night in Allentown, Pennsylvania, when Mel Phillips was caught in the front seat of a car with a child approximately 10 years old performing oral sexual on this child of 10 years old, brought into the arena by a security guard, confronted to Mr. McMahon, Vince Sr. and Vince Jr., and they said we would handle it.
Vince Sr., your father? Is that right, Vince?
Yes, and first of all...
Is that true?
No, I don't know if it's true or not. I can tell you that no one ever came to my dad.
What was the year this is supposed to have taken place, Billy?
About 82 or 83, I can't remember, but the main part I want to bring up...
We should also make this point, Billy. These are pretty heavy bombs you're throwing
These are very heavy bombs.
But we don't have any proof, and I don't think you're claiming to have seen the illegal act.
Okay, I may not have seen this particular illegal act, but it has gone on for so many years. Just as the selling of drugs by Dr. George Zahorian has gone on for 15 years in the World Wrestling
Very
Federation. Witnessed and condoned by Vince McMahon, you see, and condoned by him sitting this close to Dr. Zohorian while he sold steroids, while he sold barbiturates, downers and uppers to every wrestler who have wanted them.
Just
You
ask you
see,
this.
I'm saying, what I'm trying to say is the man could condone this, so he also condoned the homosexuality. He put up with the drug selling, and he put up with the homosexuality.
Identify the cast of characters here. You mentioned Mal Phillips. He is another of the executives who has resigned.
I don't believe he was an actual executive. He was a ring announcer.
Was he not? Has he not resigned from the
I
WWF?
believe he has resigned or been fired. I don't know which.
Is he not one of the people who has
He's one of those who was
stepped down
alleged, yes.
following the publicity about this? Nobody's been proven guilty. We should get that point. You're denying you recall anything like this, looking the other way.
Not only that, the thing of it is, why not speak up? If I saw something like that, I'd call the authorities. That's what you would do. A 10-year-old boy, you call the authorities. Come on. You're not going to let somebody like that get away with that. Please,
You know what? You know why?
And
Why didn't you? Why didn't you speak up? Why didn't you speak up when you allowed Dr. George Zohorian to sell barbiturates that almost killed Rick McGraw? They were in his bloodstream when he died, along with all the.
Billy, we're all smarter now about steroids.
But wait a minute. Barbiturates, steroids, plus hardcore drugs that I had 3 overdoses with myself from Dr. Zohorian's drugs. And I tell you one thing, if my wife would have had a gun, she flushed half the drugs down the toilet. And if my wife sitting right there would have had a gun, she would have killed Dr. Zohorian. And she said if she would have had a chance, she would have killed Vince McMahon because he permitted it to happen.
Yeah, but you took him too, didn't you?
I was addicted because of the accessibility.
Well, you must have been a real crank when you were on him too, weren't you? I mean, weren't you? I mean, doesn't it affect your personality? I don't want to put words in your mouth.
You're addicted. You're addicted to
But you're also crabby and easy to anger, aren't you? Doesn't it alter behavior and emotional? And
Not if you're sedated, not if you have barbiturates and you have Placidil.
could you compete and survive and be a top card person in the 80s in the wrestling game without taking steroids?
No, not you would have to take steroids to in Vince McMahon's World Wrestling Federation to be on top.
Because it makes you bigger, you look better in the poster.
And that's the market. That's the
we'll
market.
be back in just a moment.
Please send a postcard to Donahue Tickets, care of NBC, 30 Rockefeller Plaza, New York, 10112. Remember, postcards only, please.
Bruno Sammartino, you did appear on the Larry King live program last week. Are you impressed with Mr. McMahon's apparent acknowledgement here on this program, which was not forthcoming on that one, that maybe there is a problem?
Some of these poor folks out there are sitting there listening to these guys, and when he makes them, they even applaud. Poor people, you don't know this man. Let me explain something to you. I wrestled from 1959 to 81, and I retired. When I came back in 84 as a color commentator, believe you me, the world of wrestling that I left and the one that I found, it was bizarre. I mean, it was filled with drugs of all kinds. We're talking about steroids, but there was cocaine. In fact, this man who pretends like he wasn't aware, why didn't somebody come to me? One time I had to go to Arizona, to New Mexico, different place, because one of his druggies was out of it, and I took his place, and I really didn't care to at that stage of my life because I'd retired. I specifically said to the man, hey, if I'm going to be going to this place in the arena, says I want to make sure that I don't drive with any of you wrestlers that are full of coke and whatever. So he arranged for this other old-time wrestler, Jay Strongbow, for me to travel with him because I wouldn't be in the car because I was always afraid of a car being stopped full of drugs. And he said to me, "Don't worry," he says, "I'll get the agent to rent the car so you can go around with him."
Well, let me just say this in behalf of Mr. McMahon. First of all these charges are yet to be proven.
They're just coming up.
And if just, I want to get to this, Bruno. Well, that's another thing. Why are they just now coming up? Let's understand this.
I can answer that question.
What is it?
There's never been a forum for them before. You have to understand that the wrestling business has always been a totally closed entity. It's like almost like an elementary school. You don't tell. If something happens in the business, there was a friend of mine, okay, and it has nothing to do with Vince McMahon. I don't want anyone to think it does. Who was murdered in a dressing room, and it was very difficult. This was in Puerto Rico, and it was very difficult for the wrestlers, even in the murder, to go to the police the next day and tell the truth. It took one of the guys who was a friend of the guys says we've got to go tell the truth, and there was so much pressure on telling that you don't snitch.
I get it, but this point has to be made. These are men in groups.
Sure.
Not unlike the New York Mets.
That's right.
Some of whose members are now under a very big, embarrassing gun of a charge brought by a woman. Just let me finish here. I guarantee you there's nobody in this audience that's gonna drop over of indignation to discover that pot smoking may have taken place. That throughout the 70s and 80s, especially when the money started rolling in, cocaine started to take place. No doubt about that. And I guarantee you, this bright audience knows damn well that steroids were used. This is easy to get. We know this. Now, wait a minute. Here's the...